All Souls games have badass main characters who faced godly beings and managed to come out alive. Tarnished had to face Soldier of Godric, Sekiro almost failed his journey at the hands of Mist Noble, and there were eldritch gods such as Pinwheel, Coventus Demon, and this guy, I don't know. I believe each protagonist is powerful enough to survive in each other's world. I can see Sekiro bullying Soul of Cinder and linking the fire. I can see Tarnished spamming Bloodhound Stab across Yharnam. So who is the strongest Soul protagonist? Well, let's start from the bottom of the list. No, I didn't put the least favorite character in the bottom spot to avoid angry Redditors. Or did I? In all seriousness, I don't think Slayer of Demons is weak in any way. And the same goes with every other Souls protagonist. They are all incredibly broken and powerful, but some are slightly less powerful than the others. Now, Slayer of Demons is basically the medieval Doom guy. My dude here's Boletaria is covered in a thick fog and all legendary warriors who traveled there are never seen again. So, Slayer of Demon looks at the situation and says, yep, I can deal with that. Slayer of Demons defeats many powerful enemies, such as Dragon God, but his enemies don't really feel as powerful as the enemies other protagonists face. Dragon God was a plain skeleton worshipped as a symbolic god before it was resurrected as a demon. Slayer of Demons basically does what most other main characters do. They have an unbreakable will that can resist godly creatures, they defeat champions and legendary warriors of the previous age, and they defeat many powerful demons. However, this is the issue. They don't really have anything special that other characters can't replicate. Despite being immensely powerful, they fall a bit short against all the other characters. So, I won't stick to this one too much. There are many interesting characters waiting higher in the list. I don't think Sekiro is weak by any means, but we need to decide how we measure strongest characters. If gameplay is considered, good luck landing a single hit on Sekiro without getting parried. He can deflect bullets and attacks made by a divine dragon, but then there is Armored Warrior. Sekiro fails to even scratch his armor. So, without lore backing it up, gameplay doesn't really tell you how strong or weak a character is. A random farmer can break Sekiro's posture, and a random sewer rat can seriously hurt a character who has slain a god 5 minutes ago. I decided to place Sekiro in the 6th place because this title is more down to earth than all the other titles. You won't find a god at every corner, you won't shape the future of the universe. Sekiro, just like all the other protagonists, can resurrect, but his powers come with one additional little bonus. He can resurrect at his will without needing to return to a shrine, but his resurrection seems to be slightly more complicated than the other ones. Despite coming back to life, he can't replace his body parts, and that's why he has the prosthetic arms. He is skilled enough to deflect pretty much anything, and he can even redirect lightning bolts regardless of their size. He can master different fighting styles and tools in matter of seconds. Probably the second biggest advantage Sekiro has over the other characters is his Mortal Blade. It is essentially the same thing as Destined Death from Elden Ring. Against Sekiro, all other characters only have one chance. In a scenario where they face Sekiro, it is inevitable that they will lose their immortality as soon as they contact with Mortal Blade. Without over-the-top lore, Sekiro could destroy any other character in the list as long as they are not wearing any heavy armor. Sekiro is faster and stronger and he can never get exhausted. But at the end of the day, Sekiro is just a regular human who is against gods and godslayers, so he falls a bit short on the lore side of the things. But if you were rooting for Sekiro, don't feel bad, the second round takes place underwater, so he is automatically the strongest. Chosen Undead is a unique character in a way that even his title is a lie. He is a chosen champion who was destined to escape from the Undead Asylum and link the First Flame once again. But this is one of many made-up prophecies made by Lords of Anor Londo in order to trick humanity and have them work towards a goal that will only award Gwyn and his family. So, right from from the start, Chosen Undead is brainwashed into fighting for a fake salvation. In Dark Souls 1, it is heavily implied that Chosen Undead is against a broken world, and he rarely faces legendary figures in their full power. Gwyn is exhausted and driven mad after linking the first flame. Artorias is corrupted by darkness, and his sword arm is broken. Calamite is impaled by a giant's arrow right before he encounters Chosen Undead. Sif is not willing to fight his old friend, and there are many more examples of this situation. But Chosen Undead's journey is not all lies and exaggerated battles. They defeat the father of sorceries, they surpass the greatest sorcerers of Lordran, they learn chaos pyromancies, and they obtain flames burning brighter than the ones even demons of chaos can cast. And their most important achievement is defeating Father of Abyss. He travels back in time and defeats potentially the strongest monster ever set foot in Lordran. While Gods of Honor Londo hide in their castle, Chosen Undead faces menace in its lair. Without a doubt, the strongest force of darkness and Abyss fails to corrupt or even harm the Chosen Undead. On top of his victory, Chosen Undead learns the dark sorceries of Menace, and he brings hexes lost in time back to Lordran. So without him, future generations could never wield the sorceries derived from darkness. Chosen Undead faces many powerful enemies and earns a godly status despite the false prophecies that guided him. They are still an incredibly powerful protagonist, and placing them so low in the list doesn't mean they are weak by any means. But sadly, they don't face many enemies in their prime to show true potentials they hold. Bearer of the Curse is my favorite protagonist, but as much as I want to place them higher, I have to settle for the 4th spot. Based on the ending you pick, Bearer of the Curse can even become the 2nd strongest character in the list. The thing that makes them special is simple. They are the only one with choice. While every other character is forced or manipulated to reach the end of their journey, this doesn't apply to the Bearer of the Curse. They decide they will try to cure their undead curse, and they sail into an unfamiliar, distant world to explore. Just like all the other characters, they also challenge many powerful entities. The ones that stand out are the Fragments of Menace, but how can Bearer of the Curse be stronger than Chosen Undead if they only beat the small Fragments of Menace? Well, Bearer of the Curse achieves one thing no other protagonist could. When they dive through the gates of hell in order to free Burnt Ivory King from his eternal torture, not only Bearer of the Curse defeats the strongest warrior of Drangleic, they are also the first and the only living being to travel into the depths of chaos and come out alive. Not even the so-called gods in Dark Souls can resist the old chaos. However, eternal cursed flames fail to harm Bearer of the Curse. In Dark Souls, regardless of the ending you pick in any game, you never break the cycle in the end. Your choice makes no difference. If you refuse to link the first flame in Dark Souls 1, another chosen will rise and they will link the first flame instead. In Dark Souls 2, if you refuse to start the next stage of fire, you will be forced to do so. And when you link it, some spooky skeleton will find you, slay you, and turn your crown into a bracelet. In Dark Souls 3, once again, regardless of your choice, another Age of Fire will start. But there's one unique ending, different from all the others in Scholar of the First Sin. If you pass the last test of Aldia, you are given the option to abandon your throne. At this point, just like Aldia, you escape from the cycle and become an immortal soul immune to undead curse. Together with Aldia, you travel across time and different realities to uncover the truth of your existence. Bearer of the Curse is the only protagonist who ascended to a position above the gods of Dark Souls. However, their influence is not visible in Dark Souls 3. It is either because they became something much bigger than 4 lords, or it's because writers decided to hard reset the lore after Dark Souls 2. But the fact still remains, Bearer of the Curse is the only character who ascends to a position above gods. I have to finish this part and leave the country before the toxic fanbase readies their fedora and katana. Now, I placed Hunter in the 3rd spot, but he might as well be the 2nd strongest protagonist. Comparing different settings is really difficult. Anyways, what makes Hunter so special and powerful? Well, Hunter is a fighter who mastered all kinds of weapons and tools. Only Tarnished and Sekiro can match his speed, and just like all the other characters, he is also immortal. Not only is Hunter expert expert in tracking and slaying beasts, they can also challenge skilled warriors with ease. As hunters slay their prey, they become progressively more and more powerful through blood and insight. Hunter starts as a human being, but as the journey continues, they evolve into an almost godly status. Just like all the other characters, Hunter also faces many godly beings, but the concept of fighting gods in their weak form is also present in Bloodborne. Despite challenging many of the great ones, Hunter meets them in their weaker physical forms. And here's the part that separates Hunter from other characters higher in the list. The great ones that are present in the game are not necessarily fighters. They are incredibly powerful creatures that can shape reality and even take out their enemies with a glimpse, but as Hunter evolves more and more, great ones are forced to rely on their physical strength as their godly powers become useless against the Hunter. Similar to mythology, each great one has different powers. Hunter is capable of slaying gods, however, the ones present in the game seem to lack proper fighting experience as they never needed to rely on fighting before. I will give some examples from mythology. Think of it this way: you have god-slaying powers, but you are challenged by Persephone or Aphrodite rather than big guns like Zeus or Poseidon. In the end, you defeat a god, but you defeat the weaker gods in their weaker forms. You don't fight against a god who is a master in battlefield. Hunter is still incredibly powerful and just as capable as any other protagonist. I believe they could easily become the Elden Lord, or they could easily link the fire, but the gods that are challenged by Hunter don't seem as intimidating as the ones other characters challenge, especially because Hunter is immune to most of the great ones and their powers. But of course, being immune to gods and hunting them is a great flex, and that's why it is so difficult to decide between the second and the third spot. Ashen One's story is a bit different than all the other characters. Every protagonist starts at their lowest. Sekiro has lost his will to fight, Chosen Undead is rotting in a prison cell, but Ashen One is different. Before their journey starts for the second time, they are already a failure. Ashen One is an insignificant soul who tried to link the first flame but then failed miserably and was reduced to ashes. But their second journey begins when the Lords of Cinder refuse their duty. Without anyone else willing to link the first fire, Ashen One is resurrected as the last resort. Throughout their journey, Ashen One meets many formidable enemies. Some are way past their prime, like High Lord Volnir and Yorm. Some are stopped by Ashen One before they could reach their peak, like Aldrich and Sullivan. But the difference Ashen One makes is the godly enemies they manage to beat. Midir is weakened and corrupted by the dark. Abyss is a corrupting power that can destroy gods, humans, and essentially anything with soul. Yet Midir is powerful enough to consume it, and Ashen One is powerful enough to defeat such a beast. Nameless King is not in his prime during his fight against the Ashen One. However, he is still the same god of war who has slain and absorbed countless ancient dragons. The only reason he holds himself back during the fight is because he leaves his God of War identity behind in order to build a peaceful world for dragons, lords, and humans. Another godly creature beaten by Ashen One is Slave Knight Gale, a powerful soldier who has been alive and fighting wars long before the first Age of Fire started. Not only does Gale have thousands of years of experience, at the end of his journey he also holds the majority of the Dark Soul. For those of you who don't know what Dark Soul is, it is basically an Elden Ring rune on steroids. It is one of the core souls that started life in Dark Souls. Once Ashen One defeats Gale, they collect the soul which most likely belonged to a god in the beginning. And at the end of Ashen One's journey, they face the Soul of Cinder. It is the embodiment of every champion who has linked the fire in the past. Soul of Cinder doesn't directly hold the soul of everyone that came before him, as the soul grows weaker and leaves the body over time, but it still holds the will and the battle experience of Gavin, previous two Dark Souls protagonists, and every other champion who has linked the fire. Defeating such a boss by itself is already a great achievement, but the fact that Ashen One collects the Soul of Cinder's essence and gains access to powers of countless warriors makes them an absurdly powerful character. It is probably no surprise to anyone that Tarnished got the first spot. I will keep it short for all 2 of you legends who are still watching the video. Tarnished doesn't follow the fighting bosses at their lowest setting as much as the other characters. In Dark Souls, it is heavily implied that almost all the bosses are just shadows of their former selves. I mean, by the time you encounter Gwyn, he is a mindless hollow and his boss fight is especially easy to implement his downfall. But in Elden Ring, you fight most bosses in their prime, or at least close to their prime strength. Sure, there's Radahn, who has lost his limbs and mind after Malenia triggered a tactical nuke right next to him, and Renala's second phase is a simple spell mimicking a fraction of her power, but we need to look at the other major bosses. Godfrey returns from his pilgrimage to defeat Elden Beast. When you push him to his limit, he expels Serosh to fight in his peak form. Now the cool thing is, even when he was defeated in Badlands, Godfrey didn't remove Serosh, so it already tells how big of a problem Tarnished is. Another example is Malenia's boss fight. Malenia's duel with Radahn ends in a stalemate, but while Radahn loses his mind, Malenia grows stronger after her recovery. When Tarnished pushes her to her limits, she blooms and becomes even stronger. Malenia is an undefeated warrior, but despite ascending and becoming even stronger during her boss fight, she is still defeated at the hands of Tarnished. Malekith, a fearsome warrior who has defeated godlike Empyreans without any special powers, fails to defeat Tarnished despite wielding god-slaying powers this time. Similarly, Mohg fails to defeat Tarnished despite having the blessing of an outer god. Elden Beast, a vassal of God, just like all the others, falls before Tarnished, and maybe their most impressive fight is against promised consort Radahn. Radahn in his final form is missing his great rune, but he is blessed by Miquella on top of Formless Mother. Unlike other characters, Tarnished fights many bosses close to their prime strength, and oftentimes Tarnished challenges bosses right after they become even stronger than their former self. Tarnished also holds the powers of a great rune of their choice, and they are guided by Queen Marika. They are immortal just like all the other characters, except their immortality doesn't come with any downside. So Tarnished has a clear advantage over all the other Souls characters. Well, this was it. If you liked the video, give a like. If you disliked it, go ahead and hit the thumbs down. And thanks for watching. I will see you on the next one. Bye.